I want to talk a little bit about thumbnail sketching and the importance it plays in your skill development. And really, what I'd like to do is have everybody get in the habit of sketching more and more in their daily lives, and particularly for students, that means if you're in a lecture or a presentation, really go ahead and try and use pictograms and diagrams as much as possible, and think about prioritizing the information that you're hearing, and that the prioritization can occur many ways. You can make a quick sketch of an item that they're talking about. It could be a word or multiple words, and you can put an asterisk, or you can put a circle around it to emphasize the importance that it plays from the presentation standpoint. So starting out, really use any medium. You don't really need much more than a pen or a pencil. I generally would keep multiple pens and maybe a marker or so handy on my desk, because that's just the way I like to operate. I like to be able to add a splash of color. That's also another way, just like an asterisk or a circle, it brings emphasis to a particular item that you've put down on paper, or a particular note that you've put down on the paper. So the more you do this, the more you're going to develop your ideation skills, your sketching skills. And really, note-taking and thumbnail sketching, those are the first stages of the ideation process, because thumbnail sketches are primarily intended to be for you. They're your thinking sketches. Now, as you go along in your professional career, you need to be much more efficient. So the more that your thinking sketches can also be sketches that you can share with other people, the better. So you build in the ability to sketch a little bit more precisely and quickly at the same time. I think starting out, for some of you, it's a difficult process, and you'll just need to keep practicing and more and more and more. Practice as much as you can every day if you want to become good at it. I will add at this point, and you'll hear me say this several times probably over the next 4 years, is that sketching and visual communication is really the most important skill that you can have as an industrial designer. That really emphasizes the importance that sketching plays. And if you talk to hiring managers in the design field, sketching and visual communication really is the number one or number two item, actually, that they look at when they're evaluating a candidate. Can they quickly communicate their ideas on paper in a way that other people will understand it, not just themselves? So you really need to think about the fact that you're sketching to communicate to others, right? So thumbnails are basically starting out for yourself and getting your thoughts organized, and then as you go into further ideation, more and more the sketches become appropriate for other people, because there's a little bit more precision in that process. In the video segment that you're watching now, you can see how I'm generating a lot of quick side view or orthographic view sketches. This can be done very rapidly. You're not encumbered by trying to get your perspective sketches down. Now, I encourage perspective drawing. We're going to be getting into that, and hopefully you'll all master that by the end of the semester. But in the meantime, focus on top views and side views that quickly allow you to annotate and get the information down on paper so that you can process that later when you get back to your home and you're reevaluating, you're reassessing, and going through all of your notes from the meeting. Here, the marker helps indicate a proportional breakup of the product and how that can vary based on part breakup. And also the hatchwork is an indication of textural change. All right, so this is going to be an example of a meeting that we're attending. The company is Canine Force, and they've brought us in to develop a harness, canine harness for larger breed dogs. And as they're branching out into new product categories for larger dogs, they want to be sure and emphasize safety for the human and comfort for the canine. But along those lines, durability and quality are really at the top of the list. So in this meeting, the director of marketing is laying out their roadmap for a new line of harnesses. And this is not a product that they currently make, but she's expressing all the attributes of the product that they would like to see us develop and imbue the product with. So it's really important that we set out, that we listen carefully to what she's telling us about the company and about the product. And so as I begin to take notes, I'm actually using some pictograms and some diagrams to lay out, the information as I'm hearing it. And the important thing too is generally there'll be, after the meeting, there's a meeting recap that will occur, and you will generally be compiling your notes. And in many cases, if this is at the very beginning of the process, this might be the time at which you put together the proposal for developing the product. In that case, you would include a recap of this meeting with your meeting notes. And the reason for doing that is to make sure that you heard what they wanted you to hear, right? And that it's a safety valve for you, because that gives them the ability to correct any misinformation any information that you misinterpreted, and we can get that settled out right at the beginning of the process. So that, from that standpoint, it's very valuable. But you can see in my notes here, I'm hearing a little bit about the history of traditional collars for canines, and I'm using different pictogram or thumbnail techniques. You can see in the upper right, I've used a frame to kind of capture a detail of that harness, and that's a classic storyboard type of approach to visual note taking, right? So you could have a whole board of these frames, and in each frame you would be depicting different information about the scene or the product or the service or whatever it is that you're working on at that time. But I chose to use a frame just for that one particular view to kind of show you some of the options that you can employ. So there's different views of the dog, there's different information. I'm writing down here, they have a problem with the strap along the back of the dog being too short. They want to increase that based on the breed size. And so first and foremost, the key points, right? The director of marketing is laying out a lot of information very quickly. And so I'm trying to pick kind of the highlights of what she's saying, the strategic words, whether it be strong, durable, confident. Those are very powerful words, and you need to be able to address those in the concepts that you present down the line. How is it durable? How does this make the user confident? And then from the canine standpoint, how is it safe? How are you making it comfortable for the dog when it's being worn? So all these different points are being written down as annotations. I'm using circles, or technically ellipses, to highlight certain information that I want to remember, right? So this is all about recall and retention, and the visual note taking is proven to be highly impactful on memory recall and retention. So this gives you the platform for further exploration in your ideation process, and as we go along, It'll give you the ability to remember and highlight the areas of strategic interest that you want to express in your concepts. So to recap, visual note-taking is real-time note-taking comprised of hand-drawn images and text. Visual note-taking is a form of visual communication that's perfect for live events like meetings, lectures, or presentations. Both viewers of visual note and visual note takers themselves can benefit from these live drawings by boosting their ability to process, retain, and recall information. That mental boost comes from the visual aspect of visual note taking. In fact, visuals are a proven way to increase engagement with context, improve information retention and understanding, and more.